What possesses a man to throw himself willingly into horror? What weight rests upon his soul? What scars reside in his mind to make him embrace a reality where to wake every morning means to risk pain, suffering, and death? Are such things even men anymore? Or has their humanity been shed like a skin, and what is left is sick and improper, a mockery of what should be our finer virtues and resplendent truths? It would be easy to dismiss such beings as broken, splintered, and rotten to the core, and yet there is a will that is of iron. Has our world Do'Urden not suffered? Has it not sputtered like a candle in the gale, so close to being extinguished, never to return? Was it not the weakness of men that brought it so close to cataclysm, that danced so seductively with annihilation? When those who came before died, dashed to pieces on the rocks of hubris and humiliation, Do'Urden did not die. When order was overturned and the laws of reality were sundered, even then did Do'Urden survive. But why? What could keep this shattered world together but men made strong by the very flaws that had nearly destroyed everything? Men who had understood fear and rage and violence and suffering. Men who had tempered themselves in the crucibles of loss and destruction and belief. Make no mistake, that anyone on Do'Urden breathes is an act of willpower born of ignorance. Anyone who accepts the truth would know that Do'Urden, and all upon it, is destined for nothing but screaming and ash. And yet, in ways, the corpse will flourish. From the wounds and sores and rended viscera of a world torn asunder, the strong will march, plant their flags, and force the world around them to be what it must. Do'Urden should have died long ago, and perhaps, when this is all over, we shall wish that it had. From the wreckage of the order that came before, a new power arose. As scattered survivors clawed their way toward a fragile dawn, the Azerai Church and its then unheralded Penitent Crusade emerged from beneath the sunlit citadel, uniting the remnants of mankind beneath a banner of iron, faith, and flame. In the centuries since, the Church has become one of the dominant forces in Do'Urden, binding together an eclectic empire of feudal kingdoms and vassal republics in an unyielding grip. Describing itself foremost as a church, the empire is built upon the veneration of Azerai, the so-called first saint. Said to have guided mankind in distant ages, Azerai is remembered as a voice once scorned by the old order, and later vindicated by its fall. In her name, the faith exalts sanctified authority and teaches that order must be imposed upon a failing world. Survival is not a gift, but a duty, earned through obedience, sacrifice, and endurance. Faith in Do'Urden is not private, it is civic, martial, and absolute. Church law is both strict and uncompromising. Authority is enforced through doctrine, ritual, and force, each justified in the name of survival. Stability is treated as a moral obligation, sacrifice as a civic debt owed by every subject to the whole. The faith does not promise salvation, it promises endurance. To some, this order is the last bulwark against extinction, the final structure keeping mankind from sliding into chaos. To others, it is merely another rigid system forcing the world to function long after it should have failed, maintaining control at any cost and calling it virtue. The most powerful entities within the church know that to save the spirit, you must sometimes break the flesh, and to ensure that all embrace faith and doctrine, you must show the cost of ignorance. The Church knows that those who will not bend must break. The Penitent Crusade is the Church's will made manifest, a standing army of ironclad warriors drawn from the Empire's own folk, armed and sanctified by holy purpose. Where doctrine falters, the Crusade advances. Its knights, agents, and warbands march to purge instability, silence heresy, and contain threats that cannot be reasoned with. They do not seek to redeem the world, only to enforce obedience to the Church's design. Together, Church and Crusade form the Empire's answer to collapse. Faith enforced by steel, survival purchased in blood. Yet the Empire is beset on all sides by mundane evils and darker horrors still. The strength of the Crusade is stretched thin, far thinner than its masters would ever admit. And worse, there is a place where even the might of the Crusade and the zeal of the Church are pushed to their very limits. A place where darkness is as thick as tar, and death comes as swift as thought. Imagine a land where bounty and brutality swirl together, becoming one the same. A place of violent mystery, where the only guarantee is that your death will be violent and painful. It is to this dark place that the Church has come, and it is here that the Penitent Crusade will forge the next saga of their legend, or die in the effort. The lost continent, known as Paradisus Martyrum by the devout followers of Azerai, or Teotihuacan by its mysterious inhabitants, is a hot, rain-soaked wilderness of choking jungle, treacherous coasts, and half-buried remnants that draw the desperate and the devout in equal measure. The sun burns too hot on the high ridges and peaks, stripping a body of the water it needs to live far too quickly, while night falls too early in the deep valleys, bringing the thick vegetation to life with the fierce nocturnal creatures that call it home. The dense jungles hint at stories untold, and it becomes easy to imagine 1,000 civilizations rising and falling, building their dreams on the bones of each other, only to have them destroyed and smashed into nothing, becoming ghosts and demons for the ones who follow after. It is jungles like these that tested the resolve of the very first men, and it is jungles like these that instilled in us our black hearts and our easy violence. And yet, even here, there is a place where some approximation of rest might be had, where sleep can be surrendered to, even if it be fitful and haunted by nightmares. From Penitent's Landing, expeditions attempt to press inland to carve roads, raise camps, and claim that which the Imperial Church believes to be theirs by divine right, regardless of the toll this strange land takes in blood, disease, and slow death. The Lost Continent is a land that refuses to be mastered. Heat and rain are constant, and the jungle grows fast enough to swallow yesterday's footprints. The coast offers only a fragile promise of safety, rough surf, spoiled stores, and a settlement still finding its footing, surviving on iron discipline, sweating labor, and devout prayer offered through clenched teeth. Penitent's Landing stands as the Church's recent foothold on Teotihuacan, a meager staging ground for those sent to push beyond the palisade and return with something worth the cost. From the landing, trail parties and work details are sent out in attempts to advance stake by stake, cutting a first path toward the interior of the mainland. They harvest timber, map what can be mapped, and retrieve specimens and resources that might justify the Church's investment and strengthen its claim. To draw new forces to aid in this brutal undertaking, the Church promises salvation and sainthood to those who bring back wealth, and martyrdom to those who fall with honor. In Teotihuacan, expeditions are never only about distance travelled. They are tests of resolve, faith, and endurance, measured in supplies, scars, and the creeping sense that the jungle is not empty, but merely patiently waiting to strike. Penitent's Landing is a coastal camp at the edge of the jungle, recently established to keep expeditions moving inland and keep resources moving back out. It squats on ground that never truly dries, where heat, damp, and salt work on everything at once. Canvas sours, rope stiffens, and metal blooms with rust unless it's tended daily. The camp isn't planned so much as unfurled. Rows of tents and awnings laid out for speed, necessity around a small central command pavilion. Here, it is strict discipline that is the most vital asset, as mistakes don't just kill. They maim, they infect, they break, and they burn. A lax mind is a death sentence, but the air, the sun, even the waves all seem to draw all energy from the people of Penitent's Landing. It is as if the very soil itself despises intrusion and seeks only to swallow the corpses of those who seek to claim it. A sharpened log palisade rings the entire camp. Within it, life is routine, enforced by fatigue. Dawn begins with counts and cues, water, rations, tools, names. Work parties are sorted, packs checked, and tasks are distributed for the day. By midday, the camp is a grind of maintenance and accounting. Decaying supplies are culled, tools are cleaned and reissued, damaged gear is patched into something usable, and the infirmary does what it can with what it has. Illness is as feared as any blade, and the sick are kept close enough to watch and far enough to contain. At night, the fires burn low, and the conversation gets quieter as the jungle appears to come alive just outside the last cleared line, ready to pounce at those who let their guard slip for just a moment. When storms roll in, the sea turns from rout to barrier, and the camp feels cut off. Trapped between the surf and the jungle, making it all the more vulnerable to the enigmatic dangers beyond the walls. Penitent's Landing is a bottleneck in every sense. Everything passes through it. New arrivals full of purpose, returning crews with hollow eyes, crates of goods that might be worth shipping, and the dead dragged back for the pyre alike. Whatever comes back never seems to be enough, and it never arrives whole. The dense jungle, seeming to loom in on all sides of Penitent's Landing until just the sea at your back can offer cold comfort, must be cut back, branch by branch, and those blades need hands to hold them. Such hands are many and varied, but they all end up buried in the mud, those same blades pressed into the hands of the next misbegotten lot that has been sent to swing them. The ultimate currencies for the Penitent Crusade, as they attempt to tame the unrelenting wilds of the Lost Continent, are suffering and blood. Each soul that steps foot upon the grey, sandy shores of Paradisus Martyrum has little chance of achieving individual glory. Instead, success in this cursed place is a tapestry, each body a thread, woven in and around each other until they come together to form a whole. Sly scouts, brutal warriors, fantastical creatures and their fanatical handlers, and even those who trade brutality for bookishness, all have a place. Stepping forward from the ranks of common folk like the other supplicants of the Penitent Crusade, the trailblazers of Azerai Expedition joined for all kinds of reasons. Some are devout and hungry for glory and sainthood, some hope the Lost Continent will wash their sins clean, others simply saw a way out and took it. Most arrive thinking the worst is already behind them, and most learn otherwise shortly after. As the rank and file holding Penitent's Landing, trailblazers are sent out on most expeditions and for almost every task. They cut paths through vine and brush, widen routes for supply runs, and haul rope, stakes, and water. They set marks on trunks, plant stakes where the ground will take them, and drag back whatever can be safely taken. They stand as the core of the expedition, the first ones asked to step into the unknown. When the jungle offers fever, rot, and far worse things that should not exist, it finds them first. Many trailblazers die shaking in the sick tent, or rotting from a wound that turned foul. Others vanish into the brush, leaving nothing but disturbed leaves and tools behind. It is unspoken in the camp, but all know that the trailblazers will sow the seeds of the church ambition, of this new world and the fate that they would bring to it, within their own flesh. Then they will march into the dark jungle and give of themselves until every ounce is spent. The church needs sinners and saints alike, but they are all destined to meet the same fate in the end. Sent to keep the peace and to ensure the most critical agents and assets of the expedition remain standing, the bulwarks of the Penitent Crusade bring brutal strength wherever they are deployed. Towering and hard to rattle, they move with a measured, uncanny coordination in spite of their hulking frames. A countenance that serves them well when faced by the strange threats and miserable conditions of Penitent's Landing that would ultimately break even the staunchest of common soldiery. They are elite warriors, and their preternatural loyalty and sense of duty are never in question. What is different from their counterparts back home is their temper, as the bulwarks posted this far from the Empire are noticeably more erratic and irritable. In camp, the men whisper about the Crusade apothecary and the measured doses of a mysterious alchemical agent that the bulwarks collect. When that supply runs thin or is inconsistent, discipline slips, and the measured discipline of the bulwarks appears to fade. The expedition marshals are selected from the ranks of field marshals back in the Empire. The church presents the appointment as a holy cause. The truth is often less flattering. Most expedition marshals are chosen because the church considers them a risk to the balance at home. Too influential, too popular in the wrong circles, marked by a critical mistake, or blamed for a mundane failure outside of their control. Even so, the expedition marshal sent is expected to be fiercely loyal to the Azerai Creed. The mission is considered critical by the church, and the marshal is judged on results rather than reputation. At Penitent's Landing, leadership is critical in keeping people fed, moving, and under control while the jungle, sickness, and despair do their best to unravel the camp into chaos. As with all field marshals, the expedition marshal is a skilled warrior and expert leader, overcoming challenges with a combination of martial skill and a sharpened tactical mind. The expedition marshal holds discipline in a place where fear, sickness, and resentment spread fast, and is often the sole difference between an organized expedition and a panicked rout. The Azerai Pathfinder is an expert of the wilderness who was drafted to gain a deep understanding of survival in the jungle. He is typically accompanied by a manticoric stalker for the expeditions, their senses linked through some mysterious alchemical process and obedient to them alone, earned through proof of strength and willpower. This link makes them coordinate in a seemingly unnaturally synchronized way. The Pathfinder is crucial for expeditions leading into uncharted territories of the deeper jungle, as he has a seemingly supernatural ability to detect danger from afar, and holds extensive knowledge of how to handle nearly any kind of survival situation. Like other manticorics, the Stalker is a product of fleshcraft and dark artifice, a towering lion-like body crowned with a disturbingly human face. It is not a natural beast, and it does not behave like one. It watches with a prideful, murderous gaze, which strikes a deep, unnerving terror in even the hardiest of warriors. Stalkers are bred for two purposes: intimidation and protection. They stay close to their assigned handler and react fast when the handler tenses or signals. In the field, they can move surprisingly quietly despite their size, using cover and low ground to close distance before striking. When they pounce, it is sudden and decisive, aimed at ending a threat rather than chasing it. The manticoric stalker is an apex predator built to supplant the law of the jungle. It mercilessly hunts down anything in its path, from benign creatures to the multitude of lethal monstrosities hiding in the shadows. The expedition cartographer is a crucial part of the Azerai expedition into the Lost Continent. Trained in navigation and surveying, the cartographer records routes and landmarks so expeditions can retrace their steps and report what they found with some accuracy. Cartographers work with field scrolls and delicate tools, including compasses, measuring cord, chalk, and marking stakes. Among their most valuable instruments is a large, long glass used to take distant sights and fix positions. Because it is too heavy and awkward to carry by hand through the jungle, it is transported on a donkey, along with the tripod legs and straps needed to keep it secured. A cartographer is a critical part of any Azerian expedition, but their presence is rarely welcomed by the soldiery. The dreadful combination of an academic cursed with crippling curiosity, irreplaceability, and extrajudicial authority is a recipe for misfortune, and more often a grisly end for the warriors assigned to guard them. Many a failed excursion has been launched in pursuit of some treacherous vantage point or intriguing landmark, costing dearly those tasked with their protection. The world of Do'Urden should have died long ago. Mankind's last age of promise ended in catastrophe, with a transgression so profound it tore at the very foundations of reality itself. An act that violated the world's deepest laws and left all of creation fractured. Yet the world did not pass with the old order. Do'Urden endured, diminished and unstable, locked in a long and spasmodic death rattle that has stretched across centuries. What remains is a land of broken histories and half-remembered truths, where survival is often the greatest victory most will ever claim. Civilization persists only through force, fate, and a stubborn refusal to accept the inevitable. Cities stand because they must, not because they flourish. Old laws are enforced long after their meaning has faded, and warped new beliefs take root in the cracks of a shattered past. The foundations of the world may yet bear weight, but they groan beneath the strain. Now all that is left are the dark places, and the jungles of the lost continent must be conquered, yet they are brutal, inhospitable, and filled with secrets. This is no land awaiting renewal. There is little more than the promise of pain, and both Church and Crusade must decide how much they are willing to risk in their attempt to save that which is already lost.